Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, I want to talk about future tech, and we're going to be releasing many new products in the advanced tech, super technology area, which we are coming out with and have on our drawing boards for several years here. And we've been testing many different equipment, trying to get the best out there that we possibly can. There's an awful lot of new technology and new components that are now come down in price, where we can make advanced technologies available to the public at a hopefully reasonable price. We're going to try and have a variety priced line of this super advanced technologies, so that people can get a basic manifesting machine of a good quality for a decent price. And of course, those who want to get into more advanced and professional units will have that available as well. And there's many things to take into consideration. Anytime you're designing something, you have to take into consideration the cost. Certain components can cost hundreds of dollars. You put in components that cost a lot of money, you add those on, well, you're talking about some basic construction prices that can be running up to $600-700, and that's just the basic components, not all the labor that goes in, and not even additional parts. So everything can be. So you have to look at all these things, and that's why there's varying prices and different types of models that we'll be putting out. But there's a lot of tech out there that people, of course, know nothing about because they're so backwards. I mean, there's really nothing that's come out and is on the market right now that you could call advanced futuristic technology. It's all the same stuff, and that includes all the radionic machines, etc. It doesn't. They're still all the same, very primitive, very dial-based, and drawing on energies from what? They're not drawing on energies for anything, and they're missing the point when you're trying to amplify things from standard Earth-based energies alone that are old type energies. Trying to draw on chi and other things, atmosphere, prana, all these types of things, orgone, etc. Well, I mean, this is pretty old stuff, and this is not new technology, and there is a problem with, first of all, the power of it, and second of all, with the potential toxicity if you're accumulating something from the atmosphere. So you need something much more advanced from that. And of course, that's why IGOS has always been on the forefront, using much more advanced energies, as well as using very pure energies like lasers and tachyons, which are not affected by outside energies. No one else does this because they are ignorant. We also need to understand, well, where are these energies coming from? If we're using consciousness machines, well, what is consciousness? Where is it coming from? And of course, there are different energies. And of course, there's cosmic consciousness that you connect to. So, but it's still to a large extent coming through you. You are not a very powerful person. Now, I hear people talk about how powerful the brain is and everything else. I don't believe this because you don't really see much happening with brain technologies. I mean, there are people who are smart for whatever reason. They can do mathematics, learn science, or other ones can't. But they also cannot do anything artistic whatsoever. So they have no taste. They're confused by the common in life. They can't fix their cars, yet they have PhDs. So you run into all these problems. Well, then why is that? Well, they're learned in an area because a lot of it, of course, is environmental. If you're put in an environment with a bunch of smart people and who are striving ahead, you do better. No, you're put in a class with a bunch of dumb people, well, there's nothing for you to move ahead on. So I've seen this in school with many different classes that I've taken, and at one time was put in advanced classes with others. And of course, while I've always been a very high intelligent person, I've never done all that. Well, I never studied or anything else, but the point is your typical learning stuff. But I excelled at everything. You put me in a class with a bunch of other intelligent people, and the energy feeds on it as it does with everybody. So the whole idea is that when you get into these areas, it's very important to understand that. So where is the energy coming from? Everything being brain-based alone is a big misnomer. So technology needs to be able to tap on this cosmic energy and on the numerous energy fields within your body. Now, these can be classified without going into a lot of details so people understand it. You could call it the 7 chakra energies. Now, these are energy wheels within your body. And the point is, there's not just your head. So consciousness energies and what's projected out from your brain and is just one element of energies. And certainly there's a lot going on there. And a lot can be focused there, so it appears. But people forget the multi-brains within your body. Now, this has come to my attention recently again from several different people. And it just occurred to me, of course, well, this is really chakra energy again. So if you're going to project energy out or try and tap into energy, how are you going to where are you going to draw these energies from? Is everything going to be based in your head? Well, no. You have your solar plexus heart energy, and this has been considered since ancient times kind of another brain. And of course, it has even more blatantly is your gut. Your gut is the other brain. And it actually produces, and I think the heart does as well, actually produces chemicals similar to the brain that you produce actually in your gut. Now, I don't know how many people know that. I was unaware of that myself until recently. That, I understood there were the chakra energies in these areas, your root chakra, all these things, and the flowing of energy through your body. I didn't know that actually, and how important the gut energy is in general. Your whole immune system's in your gut. It's the bacteria's down there. And few people understand that as well, but that's where your immune system is. So it's very important to keep your gut as healthy as possible. And that's another subject we'll cover. And it's very important because that's where your energies are coming from. You know, nothing is by itself. You can't be sick in front of the most powerful radionic machine in the world, hooked all up, and you have very little bioenergies and expect to do well. Because you are a major component in advanced technologies. Super advanced technologies recognize and empower the ultimate power source in the universe, and that's you, who's the most complicated, powerful computer that there is. Now, it's a difficult computer. You have to work with it. There's all sorts of things to figure out. So it takes a lifetime to learn how to use the personal computer, meaning you. So that's the big screening process that goes on. If everybody could just flip a switch on a particular type of technology, we would have a nightmarish world. And a lot of the nightmarish world we have right now is because of that, because it's not working enough on the individual. But the individual is the key to it. And we're constantly telling each other how inferior the human race is, that we need machines to do everything. Couldn't be further from the truth. The bioenergy of a human has a capacity to do just about anything. But it ain't easy. How do you access these superpowers within your body or superpowers within your brain? How do you access these to do these amazing things? Why do some people who are virtually retarded able to remember an entire book? We've seen this from savants. There's a guy who can just look at a skyline and then redraw the entire skyline. There are people that can remember numbers, can learn things super fast. And how did these things happen? Well, some of them are basically autistic. Well, something has went wrong with the chemistry and maybe the physical brain. And this, again, the twisting of the physical brain has twisted the actual energies around it. So it's working different. What do we make of this? This is what we all want. We just don't want to be a savant as part of you don't want to hit yourself in the head with a hammer and have a great memory, but then you are totally semi-retarded or totally retarded and you can't function anywhere else. And this is so true with so many. What is going on here? And of course, Schmiance has given us their usual answer. We don't know, though. I'm still figuring out how to cure dandruff. So the whole idea is that this is what you run into. So, as again, while we're trying to go to Mars, we haven't explored the amazing inner planet called the human brain. Neurosciences should be tripled and quadrupled budgets to get people researching in these areas. That's the key to everything. But it's ignorant to think that that is the only place. And it is interesting. And of course, the body is an amazing vehicle that certainly repairs itself. They thought the brain could never repair itself. They found it did. The brain was supposed to be like a rock. Now they're saying it's plastic. You use all of your brain. You don't use 5 or 10% of it. The energy moves around, but scientists kept telling, well, we're only sensing energies here. It moves around your entire brain. Why would you put all your control mechanisms in one area that could possibly be damaged or not function? So you're using all of your brain all the time because it's moving around. And it's very plastic. Finally, was that a hard thing to figure out?
Oh, was for science. Excuse me, I gotta go look for dandruff cure again.
So the whole idea is that all of these things run into these problems that we have right now. So, but it's as we've seen, and of course, when we go back into ancient societies, they were connected to empowerment systems throughout the body. The most known one, which people kind of laugh at now, were the ancient Egyptians. Now, they used to take the brain out and throw it away. It was the heart that had all the empowerments in the spiritual field. Well, it's very interesting. Well, I think that's a radical way of doing things. Obviously, the brain has all of this, but they didn't give it value in the coming world, which is interesting to think about it. Or maybe there was a much more complicated understanding to this, meaning the fact that the brain, which is the mind, is such a toxic sewer that nobody really gave it much credit. But I think that's a foolish way of looking at things. You have to control the toxic mind and work on your other minds, which give you consciousness-based. So what we're talking about here is a new level of scientific breakthroughs that have been tested by IGOS and will be slowly released here. These things take a lot of time. They take a lot of money. They take a lot of testing. Nothing is easy to get out, and people think, oh, look at the junk on the market and the untested, copied garbage that's out there, and you'll see what you have. Not much thought has went into these things. You don't have anybody a background making anything. If they do, they're kind of lost when they have it. They're either engineering types,
energy flows this way, and you got to switch.
Or you have the more scientific people, the more technical people in terms of understanding science, physics, these kind of things. And they're lost when it comes to electrical components and other things. So you got people who are lost because they only understand common electricity. And then you have people that only understand energies that are given. So they can't equate the two. So we can equate everything and put it together, but it takes time. And we are working on this right now. And this comes into the fact of picking up energies, and particularly many, many years ago, we had a psionic type helmet that we made. And these were, you're talking about going about 30 years ago, and they were the first on the market and quite fun and interesting and quite simplistic based on plans that were coming from different people who had used headbands and everything of the past. And these were taken from fiction and everything else, where helmets were a big thing in a lot of older type, psychic type and psionic type fiction. So we were making things based on that and simple machines as well. And believe it or not, all these things work quite well for what they were. I mean, these simple moving of energies, and that's what's important. And the helmets had magnets in them, copper plates, spirals. They went out to jacks and other things. We added some cosmic condensing tubes, which we put on top. This would condense energy into crystals and other things that you used. And of course, they were very fun looking, and everybody got a chuckle when they looked at them. But what they didn't get a chuckle out of was that they really do work. But the simplicity of them and the less of beeps and gadgets and lights going on, people don't take these as seriously. But you got to remember that all of these things, including all your radionic machines, don't produce any Hertzian measurable field energies in that spectrum. They're producing consciousness energies, subatomic energies, subtle energy physics, informational energetic fields, which are difficult to measure with a meter. Now, they're not difficult for me to measure because I can tap into them very easily using subtle energy detecting tools. Things like pendulums of many different types and shapes, other machines which you can connect to get dials and so on. There's lots of ways to measure these energies. They're just not, hey, put a meter on it. Well, I'm afraid that that is not available quite yet. But it certainly could be. The reason why so many things are not available right now is because it just takes a lot of money, which, of course, are not going into this. Science will not bet on other people that come up with their own belief systems. They are their club. It's the science club. You're either in that club and you do what they tell you. If you come from the outside, as I found out with interviews and stuff, people don't want to interview you because they have no idea what questions do I ask. I've never heard of this. So, when you have a interview, particularly when you look at news media, well, they're talking about things they know. Well, what is this policy? What about the national debt? What about the Republicans, the Democrats, the Senate, this bill about farm? Everybody understands this and can kind of bluff their way through it, even though I frankly doubt they know about the bills they talk about with people or have read them. From what I understand, nobody in Congress reads the entire bill. They're too long. So when you get into all this stuff, nobody, but you can kind of wing your way through it. When you start getting into this kind of science, they have no idea how to interview you. The other scientists laugh at you. Well, what is this funny looking thing here? Or this concept doesn't make any sense in my little box that hasn't proved to do anything, that's been wrong for 100 years. Well, yeah, but you're not in my club, so we're not going to let it. And they're certainly not going to look into what you're doing, bring you into the club and say, hey, we need people with different opinions so we can find the truth. They're not looking for truth. They're looking for signatures on their paycheck. So, and this means you have to follow whatever your system tells you to do. That's why we've never gotten anywhere. And it amazes me how quantum physics now is so discussed. It's been around for 100 years, people, maybe longer than that. So the debates, Einstein's been dead for 60 years. So the whole idea, and it wasn't new back then. So I don't know when this actually came out. I believe it was Max Planck, the German, who started to talk about this stuff. Now, when this actually was, who doesn't know? It could have been in the late 1800s for all we know. So it's been at least 100 years. Probably 120, probably around 1900 with these things. So who knows what the exact, it doesn't matter. It's a long time. So when we have all that, we need to understand that. So you can't move ahead with these things. So the new technologies, particular, are things that are going to tap into these energies. Now, what we want to do is to use greater and stronger energies all the time for faster manifestations. So if you're only using a particular energy, like dialing through a particular machine, well, what about all those other energies, those bioenergies you have? Now, we've discussed this already, and you are bioenergy producing all these ultra low frequencies that are out there. ELF waves, they call them. And these are all going through your body, and when you touch things and project them, which is so important why you physically have to get involved to transfer these energies, because they are very subtle and they aren't overly strong. So you have to amplify them. One of the ways is you're transferring it using the different energetic fields in your body, your brain, etc. You're transferring these energies into machines and objects. But what you need to do is amplify these energies so they're much stronger. So when you're projecting at a person, we already know that you can, there's things called remote influencing. Everybody's heard of remote viewing, but you then picture a person and you send energy to them to influence them, otherwise called telepathy, telekinesis, whatever you want to call some of these things. But the key word by the schmucks is remote influencing now, so that they could move away from the real science and give it a military name. We are the retards. We name it different. So they have that. So how do you amplify that? Well, now everybody's straining to concentrate, to let the energies flow out of them because they're not amplifying it properly. They're also, much of it is contained within your body because a lot of these energies are there to empower you as a general energetic cell that you are yourself. You're a big materializing energy cell. We have mech-tech cells that you put on, but you're a cell yourself that creates all these energies. And you may be missing certain energies, which is why you need certain mech-tech amulets, which kind of give you that extra energy, let's say in healing or prosperity or whatever. So when we get into those things, you're this cell. So how do you get those energies out of there? Well, and how do you amplify a lot of cosmic energies, pure energies coming to you, and draw them in at stronger levels and then project them out at stronger levels? Well, one of the ways, of course, is to use a radionic consciousness machine. And of course, you should be connected to these in a proper way. And all of our new technology will be coming out with advanced ways of using machines so that you make sure that you are much more connected to them. But one of the biggest ways, and we do have these three major energetic centers. You have the mind-brain connection, and there are all sorts of things coming out of the brain. That's why they have brain helmets that pick up all these things and sense energies in different areas of the brain. So there's an awful lot going on there in a very strong and detectable way. Then there's the energies coming off your solar plexus, your chakras, your heart chakra area. This is another big energetic area. So how do you pick up those energies? And then, of course, there's the gut root chakra area, which is your other, or you could call that your third brain. So you got your regular brain you're familiar with, you've got your heart brain, and then you've got your gut root chakra energy brain. Now, all of these are producing huge amounts of energy. They are basically flowing through you. So you have to then amplify these containing. When someone does chi exercises, they're kind of filling up with energies and holding them in a particular area. And then they're able to release it. Now, that's the old way of doing it. It's very time consuming and also very limited. Using technologies to actually draw to and access those energies is very important. That's why it's so important to get some sort of body what would you call bio-type suit or connectors. Now, you would have your basic bio connector, otherwise known as a brain helmet, so to speak, and this would be worn to tap into all those. And we do, as I said, these are very measurable. There's a lot of science been done on this for people to explain, what areas of the brains are doing things. Now, there's also a big miss area from helmets, which, of course, our new advanced helmets have. There's a huge energy center that nobody taps into that we will be tapping into. So, first of all, you got to know your science and you got to know your subtle energy physics if you're going to get these kind of extreme results. And what's the saying? People are missing the target all the time. I mean, they're pointed in the right direction, but they just can't seem to hit the target. And so, while there are your typical brain sensors and they're picking up certain areas, for what we want to do, they're missing a major area. So that has to be included, which not. Of course, you've got your temporal lobes. There's the third eye, which you want to concentrate on. So it's not just your classic brain sensing frequencies. We're trying to tap into the higher level empowerments, which are your third eye and other centers, which are on the top or in your head and brain. Your third eye is in the center of your head. People think it's in the front because that's where people concentrate on. But it's not. It's really kind of in the center of your brain. But when you have your center of your forehead, if you go straight back to the center of your head, is where your pineal gland is. And that's certainly a powerful tool that we want to stimulate and use that energy to manifest with. So then, of course, there are these other areas, the common areas, the temporal lobes, and different other areas of the physical brain that are putting out physical Hertzian frequencies that can be measured and are measured every day using sensors. So, which produce out on a machine. And these are used constantly for people that have seizures and other things. So this is kind of known, but they're looking for malfunctioning. They're not looking to stimulate or to draw energy there for manifesting. So there's a big difference. And people that make helmets don't quite understand that. And it doesn't seem like too many people in the alternative fields are doing much for that. So, and I don't really think they understand because they're missing so many areas. So, as usual, it's important that you work with someone who has a particular background that knows what they're talking about, like IGOS, I've been doing this now for 50 years, my studies in metaphysics, and I've been in the psychotronic type field for about 40 years. So the whole idea using tools of one source or another. So it's very important, and you have to have people that know something who aren't steeped in some sort of silly mysticism or caught up in jerkball science. So you have to walk a particular gnosis line and understand the golden mean of what really works. You don't want to believe in fantasy technology that you get from so many, quote, occult types, and you don't want to believe in the ridiculous science that your average scientist gives you, because they have no answers for anything. At least there's gossip that old magic really worked amazingly. Certainly there's no proof of any science ever working. What if they ever solved any problems? So the whole idea is that you need a very special type of person if we're going to go up. The whole idea is now to use advanced extreme technologies to get extreme results. The world is getting worse and worse. We can see what happened with the recent problems. These have been looming in the background. Of course, disease is always a problem, and certainly the way that the entire population of the earth could be easily wiped out, not with using ray guns, but just dropping a terrible virus that we have no protection for. But this is just the beginning. This is going to keep coming, and this is going to cause all sorts of socio-economic food supply shortages and all the other things going on. I mean, the world is a pretty bad place. And are you going to be able to survive and prosper? Well, you're going to have to learn how to go in and manipulate and influence everything. You're not going to do this with the crap technology on the market today, or the old-time magic that has never changed, or the garbage orgone that's out there that brings in all kinds of atmospheric toxins. This doesn't work. It's time for extreme ability technologies, and the only place you're going to find them is at IGOS. Designed by me and my team, who will ultimately put together high quality, great stuff that will change your life. And we started that in the 90s when we came out with these relatively primitive but effective radionic machines, which people got excellent results from that stayed with it. But, people want to get things that now are much more amplified. Problems weren't that great in the 1990s as they are today. So manifesting was much easier. So what do we do now is combine all very powerful technologies and, of course, the all-important understanding of what I've just told you. So the point is you do need to tap into those areas, but you also need to tap into other energy areas of your body, at least the other two minds. How do you do that? How is the best way of doing it? Well, all of this we're trying to put down into as least as complicated as possible and relatively affordable machinery. But you have to know how to do this. How do you sense these? How do you draw energy from these things? But people are missing the boat. Now, they're missing the boat again because you haven't really have a full bio-type suit with certain areas that connect to you to bring these energies into it. First of all, you don't have that. This has never been done because they're misunderstanding the energy flow, being so psychotically tuned into only the brain. And of course, this is very primitive science because you can measure these energies coming out of your brain very easily. And it has been done for God knows how long now, where they've been able to sense these things. They've also been able to use directly into your head, your brain, sending frequencies in there. Now, by sending frequencies in there, since your mind or your brain is this giant frequency spark thing shooting off all these little lightning bolts, when you start putting in electromagnetic fields, it disrupts these things. And it can produce all sorts of difficult and dangerous effects, just like you don't want to put a very strong magnetic field on your head in general. It could be just a strong magnet, electromagnets, etc. This is very dangerous and will cause all sorts of problems. But if you feed in selectively energies into different brain areas, well, you produce different things. Now, there's been a person in Canada who's been doing this for years and years and is able to affect people. You can even buy little types of helmets based on this person's research, or little bands, where they'll shoot energies in there. Now, this is a very dangerous process unless you really know what areas will affect what areas. And this is a whole study unto itself, and there is a certain amount of information on this. But sending things to change your consciousness is a problem. It's like taking drugs. Are these valid experiences? And like with taking so many other things, people have gotten great results breaking their connection to the world using ayahuasca, mushrooms, etc., by having these actual mind experiences by disrupting your whole view of the world to such a radical, potent, individual way. This has really changed people, and they have changed the way they look at the world. Now, I don't know if they've changed it better, because, if you're dumb, you're dumb. Now, you tend to break away from the world in one aspect, but you still have old belief systems. It doesn't change you as a person, but it does tell you that, hey, this world is different. Or so apparently this works on people. Now, I have a problem with this because I don't believe in it personally. I get enough revelations of the world without having to take any drugs to see whatever is there, and nor do I think it's a great way to gain information. But that's a personal thing. It seems like 90% of the people that use these things get a great value from it, and they change their life. Well, you can't argue with that. So it certainly is good for a lot of people, and particularly people that need this break, that haven't went through the more subtler gnosis path that I have. So the whole idea is you can do that. So this gets into a whole different area, and that's sending energies in. What we're trying to do is draw and stimulate the awesome energies, these kind of nuclear bombs that you have in your body, to channel that energy through your different energetic systems. Now, this is what people bend metal with. This is what people teleport with. This is what people read minds with. So when you start doing the techniques, which we have hundreds, not hundreds, but we have great books with hundreds of techniques in them. Yes, not hundreds of books, but the whole idea is we have all these cutting edge techniques that really work great. Well, why don't they work great? Because you are not tapping into the energies to make them work to the level that you want. So everybody gets certain results, but what we want is superhero results, and let's face it, that's what everybody's looking for. It's not whether it works a little for you. You want something that works at an extreme level. Now, how are you going to do that? Well, some people have done this through being in monasteries for 20 or 30 years and constantly. Well, that seems to me that that's not a good solution. That's an entire change of lifestyle. You're not really with society. So who wants to manifest if you're living in a Buddhist temple somewhere? Well, so what? So what, that you have breath control and you can control your body heat, etc.? Well, I'm not sure what all that means. You want something you can practically use in society, because that's where we are. Living in a hole somewhere is not being involved in society. Now, if that's what you enjoy, well, it's like everything else. But what you want to do as a person of gnosis is you want to conquer the common materialistic world out there. And that doesn't mean that you want to become super rich, but you want to be able to conquer it to the point that you can live well and access the things that society gives you that's good. Good housing, good food, some decent medical care, whatever, if there is such a thing, and all the things that go with that. Why not enjoy that? Do you want to knit your own cashmere sweater? Well, you want to be able to buy that yourself. So, is it worth it? Well, you got to put time into doing other things. If you do everything for yourself instead of buying from a credible person who makes good stuff, pure food, etc., well, you're spending all your time. Well, I'm growing my own food. I'm gonna grow my own cashmere. What is it? It comes from sheep, whatever it is. Then I'm gonna cut it off. I'm gonna wear. Okay, well, fine. Well, you're not doing anything else. All right, let somebody else that wants to do that make money for it and do it. So the whole idea is I don't see the point of that, and I don't see the point of meditating for 20 hours a day. Meditating for what? So, what are you achieving? And I just don't see much from all of these people, and particularly the Tibetans and everything else. Even their general health isn't very good. All the stuff they claim they have and so forth. Well, is it working? Well, I don't see much of it happening. So all of these things, not to mean that these are necessarily bad, but like everything in life, what works? And let's see proof of it. The rest of it is just living in a delusion. You're living in believing in something, which basically the belief is not good. Proof is good. You seek gnosis. You seek wisdom. This means you're seeking truth. Truth is what works. So, scissors cut paper. That's the truth. So, not this device that comes from space that can do. Well, where is it? Well, no. We want truth. So the whole idea is that has to be demonstrated. And it has to be demonstrated in a physical, I should say, a spiritual way as well. So all of that is how you want to. So you want to find tools that do this without having to spend endless hours meditating, drawing chi in, etc. There are ways to do everything better, more powerfully, and in a tenth of the time if you're using the right technologies, and that's what the whole advanced extreme technologies are all about. And these new things that is coming out, particularly what we call a Biosuit, which has a large main ingredient of some sort of brain connection tool that then empowers you, goes to another very high level. And of course, while there's always the consciousness radionic machines that you tune in, these will be something that you just use, project your energies, and you can use it with radionic machines and other things. And it's something that we will release at the time. And a lot of this stuff is still kept under wraps because everything we do, of course, is copied. But the technology and the workmanship and what we put into our technologies are not even comparable to what you see in the junk on the market today, because that's what it really is. There's a lot of junk out there. There's a few manufacturers that make some quality devices, but their technology is really backwards and old. They're not really getting into advanced technologies. They're using old stuff, even though their workmanship is fairly. Then there's other ones that are just making really junk technologies that have absolutely no changes in them, and they know nothing. They have no backgrounds. They haven't done any research. They don't know anything about old machines. It goes on and on and on. So they don't know anything about electronics or anything else. So what does all that mean with these types of machines out there? It means you're getting some really old junk. And 30 years ago, when there really wasn't any metaphysical radionic machines, magical machine-based radionics, I was the first one to put those out. Everything else, there were radionic machines for many years before that. They were all medically based and nothing else. So it was just the fact that you're supposed to do this as it was done at original invention, was to treat people for their vibrational illnesses, which is what radionics does. It's not treating the physical, it's treating the energetic informational waves around you and creating your own. But there was that. But nobody was using it for anything else in any great degree. There really was, this was the first kind of flop over taken from kind of science fiction that was out there that used to talk about these in 1950s and 60s novels, which has even carried on into this day, where there's a lot of games based on psionics, which is basically another term for psychotronics. But this is a term that now is only used in a jokey science fiction way. Unfortunately, because I kind of like the term psychic electronic, which is basically what it's all about. Radionics is one of the worst words to use because these are not putting out radio waves. And radionics became the word, from what I understand, it's hard to determine, from Ruth Drown, who started calling these radionics, even though radionics, the term, has been around and used in the radio industry for many years prior to it being used. But she thought I was putting out a radio type wave. Well, if that was the case, then it could be detected, but it's really not, as we've explained in other videos. So the whole idea is the extreme use and the particular use of a Biosuit, where you have multiple connections to empowerments throughout your biosystem, and there are several of them that people miss and haven't been, and it's just not using a helmet as we had in the past, which of course picked up a lot of crown chakra energy and produced a lot of good results for people. People do have problems with putting stuff on their head and other things, and wearing things. It's kind of something you have to get accustomed to if you're not a hat wearer, to put on these kind of, quote, helmet type things. And the reason why a lot of helmets are used is because you need something that's a little stronger to hold components. Now, there's a lot of very cool looking stuff out there now, unlike in the past. I mean, what we used in the past to hold our components were bicycle helmets, and we used those because they were very light, and was a way to do. But the problem with that was they looked pretty silly. So we're going to try and make things look extremely cool now, but these are not something you necessarily. But considering what people are wearing out there, the kind of styles we have right now with ripped jeans and tattoos over everybody's body and piercings on everything, seems to me that it could be a fashion cool if people out there wore these psychic type helmets by themselves as a cool fashion item. And wouldn't this be something that you could use to tune into? Let's say you're riding a motorcycle or a bicycle and you had a helmet. Well, this is going to bring up your tuning capacities dramatically. So the whole idea is that means you can avoid accidents, you can know where to go, you can sense dangers, and of course you could use this to influence people. So people wear all sorts of strange things, and we've had all these people with the get-ups with steampunk. Well, this is taking steampunk to a workable, real level instead of the fantasy plastic junk that you get in steampunk places. So all of this becomes part of this kind of cool technology that really does something. And catching this on, and it's amazing how people haven't got into this in certain areas, with the fact of how cool this is, how interesting it is. So, but it also has practical elements to either draw energies in for protection and sensing what's going on in here, or sending things out to influence people. Now, this is really where it's at. And of course, if you're Biosuit connected and using all of your energies to amplify what's coming out of you, and also to draw in these cosmic energies, because this is what fills your body up to a large degree, you're able to have a fantastic empowerment, which is really cutting edge. And things are not necessarily meant to be used outside anyway. They're meant to be used in a particular fashion. So the whole idea is that to use this in your actual life to manifest fantastic energies. You connect these biosuits and helmets directly into your consciousness machines, and you've got some super powered machines. So all of this thing is the cutting edge. This is the next level. And what we have right now doesn't even come close. Again, you have the kind of junk technology you get from the psionic radionic people. And then, of course, you've got the two brain-oriented that you get from the science people, who are basically neuroscientists figuring out what the brain's doing. Well, we're not into either of those specifically. We're into using the aspects within the human consciousness that produce informational energetic fields that change matter, basically connecting to the occultons with your psions and manifesting and changing informational energetic fields into what you want them to do and produce. Getting back to the whole understanding of subtle energy physics, which is the key to everything. So that's a little look at the future of technology, what's going to be coming out from IGOS here. Next year should be a big year in this because we're going to be spending most of our available free time, not most, pretty much all of it, on getting these new technologies out. We are not adding to or putting in anything else on the website or spending any time doing that. We're going to put all our energy into bringing out these new very ultra empowerment tools, which should really ultimately change. We need to get into this next level, and there's nothing out there, including using so many of this consciousness radionic machine technologies where you can directly affect your environment. Now, we've listed some of these for cars, for homes, for other things. Well, these are very expensive units, but what we wanted to do was let people know, hey, these technologies are out there. You can have these kind of technologies in your home, your cars, even in a fascinating, fun, actually radionic type robot, which is a very advanced tuning machine that is built into basically what you would consider a robot or mannequin type technology. So all of this is there. All of this takes huge amounts of time, energy, and money to do. But we're going to be starting with some of these things, coming out with some really potent machines based on the most advanced photonic, tachyonic, and basic resident tool machines. We're going to be moving this into biosuits, helmets, and other things which people can start doing. So these are very advanced. We want to make everything very easy to use. We want to make things fun. We want to also make things durable. And of course, if things get too complicated, people don't want to use them. So we want to make sure everything is very easy to do. We even have plans for certain chairs you sit in and giant consoles, which you can actually dial things in. But, you know, these things cost a lot of money to manufacture, and that means it's going to cost a lot of money to buy these more advanced tools. But there are plenty of things that we're trying to come out for the average person that will still be very potent. But everybody's missing the boat. All the equipment out there right now is old tech, unproven tech. Some people have been around for years. What have they done? Well, they don't tell you anything done. They don't have pictures or nothing. They keep selling the same old units. But what the validity of any of this is, well, I don't see anything new here. I mean, it's the same old stuff. It's computerized. It's orgone. Yeah, I fell asleep there. So the whole idea is that there is no cutting edge. We're not using new technologies. And the computerization for the sake of computerization doesn't really do anything in terms of building stronger units. So what is the entire process there? What are they doing? And this is, as I said, it's steeped in mystery. Most of it that's out there is just junk. Some of it looks nice and is made well. It's still junk, and some people don't even understand the difference between Hertzian fields and radionic fields. And they're putting Hertzian energy things like Tesla coils and other things through radionic machines. It doesn't work like that. You can use it as an amplifier to a certain degree going out, but certainly not going in. And so there's a big confusion of what all this is, thinking anything works, and it doesn't. There's a whole subtle energy science to this that people need to understand. So with that, these exciting breakthroughs are coming in 2021. So watch for all these and support the IGOS so we can continue to bring these mind-screwing advancements out to you. And this is the complete next level of empowerment that will bring people up to their highest possible levels. And where do those energies come from? Well, the bottom line is certainly there is some, quote, cosmic type energy fields, occultons, etc., that you want to draw in. But these things are generally all filtered through the human consciousness. You are the ultimate filter and director of energy. There's no machines that do this for you at this time, and probably never, because you're the ultimate. This is the screening process, so someone just doesn't get a machine that makes occulton energies or controls occulton energies to do whatever they want with. There is a process here that takes high-level technology and some training. So we're going to have professional models. We're also going to have basic, easy-to-use models as well. So it's an exciting time with all these negativity out there. The world is getting worse and worse. We don't see any major improvements in the coming year. We're going to continue to have all these things that continue to affect us. And what do we do? How do we survive and prosper during these really horrific years? Well, one of the tools, I should say, your main tool to survive and prosper in the future is going to be tech from IGOS. Until next time.